All right, folks, welcome back. Another episode of Literally Me, 4th of July episode. Not for any of you guys listening. This will probably be out much, much later, but for us recording, it is the morning, bright and early for me, at least on the 4th of July, America's Day. And I'm Tristan, as always, chilling here in the US of A, joined by my buddy across the pond in Germany, Dino. What up? Good morning.
What up? Good afternoon for me. Not 4th of
That's right.
July, we don't celebrate it here, but in spirit, I'm with you over there lighting fireworks.
No football on, go swimming, grill up some burgers, which are German,
Yeah,
grill up some hot dogs, which
for
are
German.
German. Uh, eat a lot of food that's not exactly American whatsoever. Maybe some pizza, Italian. All of our enemies in the World War are people that we indulge in today. So, but like I told you already off pod, I'll be watching a lot of Wimbledon
Yeah.
today, and playing some tennis, showing some love to England, the people that we escaped and whooped their ass.
Yeah, I mean, without them, you wouldn't have your freedom. So I guess paying some respect to them for being the assholes that they were back then.
Yes, thank you for enslaving the nation, I suppose. And then we enslaved a whole nother nation, but we don't have to get into that one today. We don't have to do that one today.
Next
That
time.
was for our
Next time.
June. That was our Juneteenth episode that we forgot to mention. But yeah, we're back again. An interesting episode this week. We watched Fracture 2007. This was a first time watch for me. Had a little bit of difficulty putting together a list for this one, but I think we both probably put something together pretty cool. Um, but before we get into this week's movie, you watch anything good recently? Well, first and foremost, I think you're giving me a face, and I think I know what it's for.
Yeah.
There's a story that you've been hinting on this pod for like 3.5 weeks now.
Yep.
You were flying to Croatia. Well, why don't you go ahead and take it and explain?
Yeah, so the story everyone has been waiting for, and I waited to tell Tristan because we had multiple calls since then, but I was like, I'm gonna save this one for the podcast, and we forgot about it. So here's a story. So I was flying back from vacation. I was in Split, Croatia, and we were flying home, and we got to the airport like 4 hours before the flight because we were told like, hey, there's a lot of traffic usually, so like get going like 3 hours in advance or like even sooner if you can, just in case. So we were like, hey, we don't want to miss our flight. I had to work the next day. So let's just go early. We didn't have like we had to leave our apartment. We had our like luggage. So there's no point in walking through the city. And we saw everything already. So we went to the airport, like I said, 4 hours before, and we were just like chilling there on our phones, just hanging out. And I think like an hour before our flight should have started, we see on the little thing above that our flight is getting late like 20 minutes, which we didn't really think much about. We're like, it's just 20 minutes. Maybe there's like some
Yeah,
difficulty.
whatever.
So the plane arrives, our plane, and we see all the cars like because there's like the window right next to us, so we see like the airport, and there's like cars rushing to our
Like your
plane.
gate. Yeah.
Yeah, our plane, and we're like, what's going on? So it was dark by then, and there's all these people like with flashlights looking at our plane, and we're like a lot of people just got very nervous because they were doing that. And then we get information that the plane, when it arrived, hit a swarm of bats. So a swarm of bats just came out of nowhere, and one got into like the turbine, one got on the pilot's windshield, and we saw
Oh,
them cleaning the windshield. I didn't see a bat, but like they were cleaning it.
yeah.
It was too far away. Um, and so they were like, "Yo, your flight is getting delayed. A couple of we don't know yet." The problem is the place that I live in. They closed the airport at 12 p.m. Like at midnight, it's closed. So no planes
Oh,
are
12
allowed
a.m.
to
Yeah.
land or depart because like all the people around it, they just took a vote in Switzerland, of course, that they don't want planes to arrive
Already,
After,
by the way, low key sick of that country already. Haven't even stepped foot in it yet. I'm kind of already over all their fuckery.
yeah, so, and then what happened is they were like, okay, so the plan right now is to fly to Milan, from Milan to land, and then get back up and fly to Belgium, and then from Belgium to fly back to Switzerland, because by the time we get there, it's 6 a.m. in the morning and the airport is open
Yeah,
again,
open.
we can land. And we were all like,
Is
what's
this
going on?
Basel?
It's Basel, yeah. And so we're like, what's going on? So that was the plan, and we weren't sure like they didn't tell us enough information because they didn't know either, and they had to get permission from Milan. They had to get permission from Belgium. Are we allowed to emergency land there? And so then they're like, okay, this is the plan. We're flying like that. Please get on the plane. So we start flying, and they're like, yo, guys, by the way, we still haven't gotten back from Belgium, so we don't even know if we can fly from Milan to Belgium. You'll have more information once we land. And so we landed, and there's still no information. And they're
In
like, yo,
Milan.
in Milan. And they're like, yo, guys, so you're going to be driving home from Milan. There's going to be a shuttle bus that will take you from Milan to Basel, which is around 6 hours
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
bus. And so we get there, and our group splits up because we're at Milan airport. Everything is closed. There's no information point. We're like, where's this bus? So our group gets out on different like exits, and we're just waiting. And I'm like, where's the other group? So we try to find them. Turns out they were already on the bus, and the bus is full. So they were like, okay, you guys are going with the bus. The rest of you stay here. They called up like 20 to 30 taxis, filled us up in taxis, and the taxis drove us to Basel at like 6 a.m. in the morning. And
What?
from Milan to Basel, which I looked at the meter, it was like $700 just to get there, which
Yeah. Yeah.
thank God we didn't have to pay. Like our flight company um,
Covered it.
covered
So
it.
what time did you end up landing in Milan, and then what time did you end up leaving in the cab to go back to Basel?
We landed in Milan, I think at like 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning,
Okay.
and then we were home at like 8, something like that. Maybe even later. I'm not sure. I had work
Okay.
like the exact day. I was just exhausted.
Yeah.
And we were like grouped with two other girls who were also flying from France, so they didn't even speak English or German or whatever.
German, yeah.
Yeah, so we were put with them into a taxi, had to drive home with the taxi driver who was really old, and he was like, "I'm too old to even take a trip that long." Which you were like, "Great,
Thanks.
great information, thank you." So yeah, that was my wild trip back home.
Jesus, all from I wonder if that was just a elaborate marketing stunt for the new Nosferatu film with
Maybe
all the bats.
release
Maybe
the
that's
bat.
what it was. And you were just a part of something very interactive. Um, wow, that's pretty fucking crazy. It
Yeah.
seems like some European kind of shit. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah, it was crazy. Like I wasn't annoyed. A lot of people were annoyed and angry and straight up like fighting with the stewardesses, which I'm like,
I bet, yeah.
they're not responsible for it. Like there was a
Yeah.
woman
What are
who
they
like
supposed
got
to
into
do?
a fight with the stewardesses demanding to get free food and drinks. And I'm like, I get it, like, okay, like water, sure, but she was like demanding other stuff. And I'm like,
Yeah.
it's not her fault. Why do you have to yell at this woman? Like she also had to took a taxi to drive to Basel because her hotel was
Yeah.
there. Like she's
Yeah.
in the shit
Yeah.
with us. So yeah, I wasn't
Unbelievable.
annoyed. Like for me, it was like a fun adventure. I didn't really honestly like I wasn't annoyed. Like a lot of people were scared and annoyed. I'm like, this is kind of fun because it's a cool story. Like I told people like, hey, okay, now you're annoyed, but like in a month, in like a year, you're not going to be mad about it. You're going to be laughing about it with friends about this crazy thing that happened. So if you
Yeah.
have work that's shitty, of course, I understand those people, but I was
I mean,
laughing the
that's a
whole. It's
That's a very
ridiculous.
optimistic point of view. It's very admirable of you. I definitely, I definitely respect that because I know I would have been pissed. I don't know that I would have been demanding that the flight attendant got me fucking nachos or whatever, but I definitely would have been super annoyed. Um,
Makes sense.
that's yeah, that's fucking crazy. Well, since then, and I guess since in the last week, have you seen anything new, anything good that you wanna talk about?
Yeah, so I saw a couple of things, and let me just go back. So there's a couple of stuff I haven't talked about yet. So I saw Mishima, A Life in Four Chapters, the Paul Schrader film. Have you ever seen
Yes. Did
this
did we
one?
not talk did we not talk about that?
I don't think we did. Maybe
Oh,
we
okay. I
did.
thought we did. Yeah. Yes, I have seen it.
Okay, so I watched that for the first time, which I mean, it's just incredible. The production design on this one is another level, like seriously incredible.
Yeah.
It's very like cool take on a biopic, I found. So yeah, I'm not sure if we talked about it. Like right now talking about it feels familiar. So maybe I've mentioned it already.
Maybe I feel like we have, but maybe we talked about it off the pod. I don't know, but yeah, it's a great movie. I got to give it another rewatch. It's been quite a while, but really like the most like art housey film obviously Paul Schrader has ever done. And
Oh
it's
yeah.
fun because it feels so much unlike his filmmaking style in a lot of ways, but at the same time like the subject matter really is like so Schrader. It's a really interesting like marriage of ideas. I really enjoyed that movie. I got to like I said I got to give it another rewatch though a little bit more recently.
Yeah, I thought it was incredible. So that's one I wanted to mention. And
Was it
I
streaming or did you have the physical?
it was streaming on Mubi, so I just watched
Oh,
it.
cool.
And I want to
Cool.
get like through more of Paul Schrader films because I just like him a lot. And this was so, like you
Yeah.
said, so unlike him. And just a very cool approach to a biopic. I've never seen someone tackle a biopic in that way.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
admire it a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And then I watched another documentary, speaking of documentaries, 2 days ago, the Jim Henson Idea Man doc.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if are you a Muppet fan or are you a fan of
Uh,
Jim Henson?
I support the cause that is Jim Henson for sure. I've heard a lot about this documentary, but I have myself have not seen it.
Yeah, it was directed by Ron Howard. And Ron Howard, like all the sauce that his films, in my opinion, have been a little bit lacking, he brought with this. Like he went all out. It
Cool.
doesn't feel like made by Ron Howard. Um, it just really feels like something Jim Henson would have made. Just the style he implemented from the beginning, from the opening alone, just very artsy, very spectacle. And the way it ends is just incredible. I laughed a lot throughout. And Jim Henson is just, he was just such an incredible artist, just very much pushing what he loved. And he made an impact on so many people's lives. So it was a very, very cool doc. And I think you would enjoy it as someone who likes documentaries a lot. This is a very
Yeah.
unique approach and very like Jim Henson, so a great
Yeah,
recommendation.
and I kind of heard how it's very much about like Jim Henson, the man, like not even just the Muppets, but kind of like how dedicated he was to his work,
Yep.
and how much he loved what he did for work, and so I feel like that's something I would definitely gravitate to. I gotta check that shit out.
Yeah, also his relationship with his wife and his children, like they're also in this one talking about him and all his friends, like the impact he left on all those lives. He was a very remarkable human being and a great artist. So yeah, it was
Oh
a
yeah,
very, very cool watch.
yeah, absolutely. I gotta check that
Mhm.
shit out.
And then last night, for whatever reason, I just watched The Punisher, but the Dolph Lundgren one.
Okay.
I don't know why. I just had to think of that film, and I noticed, and I've never seen it. And currently, I'm like reading a lot of comic books, and I read some of The Punisher, and I was
Uh-huh.
like, might as well just throw in The Punisher. It was wild. It's a film that I think you would enjoy, because it's very wild in the approach how they filmed it, and Dolph Lundgren is very fun as Frank Castle. But as for like a comic fan, wasn't a big fan. It wasn't very Punisher. He doesn't even have the skull on his chest. which was disappointing. But yeah,
Interesting.
it was an interesting watch.
Wow. Yeah, I haven't seen that one because at first I saw you log the Punisher and I was gonna be like, ooh, but then I saw that it was that one because the one that came out in what 2000 and like four
Warzone.
or whatever.
Oh, that's
Like there was
yeah.
like a Punisher film from like 2004.
Mhm.
That one they shot all in Tampa.
Yeah, that one is great. The 2004, which stars
Who's in
Thomas
it?
Jane.
Thomas Jane. Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah.
say Thomas Hayden Church, but yeah, Thomas Jane.
Mhm. That one I liked as well, but I have to rewatch it. And there's Warzone, another one that came out in 2008, directed by Lexi Alexander, which I also remember being better than this 89 version.
Interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to check out the '89 version though, just to kind of get an idea. I love me some Dolph,
Yeah, you
from time to time.
like it, honestly. It has
Yeah,
like it's edging towards that hard target
that's
craziness.
what I
Maybe
figured. That's what I figured
it's not as
from
fun.
the.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
it's not
that's
as fun.
I would have liked it if they went all out and would have pulled like a full John Woo type thing. He should have directed it.
He should have directed it, is what it sounds like.
Because that's what it should have been. But it was like they were sort of shying away from the craziness, but like doing a little bit, so it's more frustrating that they don't go all the way.
Yeah.
Um, it's still like interesting to watch that one.
Yeah, I
But
gotta
yeah.
peep. Was it just a random thing that popped up? You're like, oh, I'll put it on.
Like I said, I was just reading comic books. I'm going to get into what I've been reading later on with my list. Um, but yeah, I've read some Punisher as well because it was interconnected. And I was like, I'm feeling some Punisher, never seen this one. It's streaming, so might as well just watch it.
Run it. Fuck
Yeah.
yeah. Awesome.
What have you been watching in the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, so I've officially have gone through all of the Alien and Predator movies, except for The Predator. I have not seen that one yet, the Shane Black one. But I feel like that one kind of is a standalone thing, sort of doing its own thing.
Yeah.
Um, but all the Alien movies. So I saw Alien 3 for the first time, watched Alien Resurrection for the first time, rewatched Aliens for the first time in years, watched all the Predator sequels for the first time, Predator 2, Predators, and the AVP movies. I didn't watch Prey because I just saw it like last year.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know what really inspired it. I was just kind of like, I feel like watching all of these now. And I'm glad because it kind of took me out of that slump I was in. Like it actually got me back into like actually being excited to watching shit again.
Hell yeah.
Um, and yeah, I have to say that I expected Alien 3 to be garbage because David Fincher hates it so much. Honestly, a great movie. Alien 3 is very, very well made and very entertaining. Um, I don't really know why he's so down and out about that movie. I think it maybe the studio like cut it for him, like took it from him, I think is the issue. But like
Yeah.
it's still solid. I really don't I feel like it's very underrated and I feel like he's kind of unfairly bashed it. But yeah,
Wasn't it
I
his,
really
wasn't it his first like real film, like
it
full?
was his debut, yeah.
Maybe that's why. Maybe the studio took advantage of him and he wasn't like the director he is now. So maybe he's like, oh, I
Maybe.
could have made a lot of stuff differently. I have more experience now. Maybe the studio just took it away from him. And maybe there's like personal regrets he has about like his first
I
major
think
film.
it's the studio thing because he has straight up disowned it. And it's like you can look back and be like, "Oh, I would have done that differently, that differently." Every director is going to feel that every time they make a new film. They'll look back at the previous, but they don't have to straight up disown it. Like that, it like implies some kind of hatred. And it's very tightly directed. Like he actually does a fantastic job directing it. It's hard to believe that it is his debut because it is so like he's so in charge and in control. Um, but yeah, I saw those. Those were great. I thought Predators, which was one that you mentioned to me,
Yeah,
in particular, I thought that one was honestly really dope. Like a great, cool idea. I do
concept.
love that in a lot of these movies, predators just end up becoming like homies to like the humans. Like same thing in AVP, like the first Alien vs Predator. Like he
Still
kind
haven't
of
seen
becomes like their friend at the end.
it.
Um, So I kind of like that they keep like showing Predator as being like a likable, like kind of like broy type thing. Um, but yeah, watched all those. Those were all, great, great fun. And then I did see, which I won't talk about too much. I think we'll talk about it next week more so. But I did see Kinds of Kindness
Yeah.
yesterday, or I'm sorry, 2 days ago in theaters, and had a great time watching that. So I'm very, very excited and curious to get your opinion. I think you're going to see it tonight, if I'm not mistaken.
I wanted to. I won't make it tonight because my girlfriend has to work. But I'll definitely see it next week before we record the next episode. So we'll definitely talk about it.
Cool. Yeah, it's yeah, I won't say much more about it, but I very much enjoyed um that movie. Some people are not very happy about it, but
Yeah. But I'm glad you enjoyed it, honestly. Like it looks amazing. And like even with the alien thing, because I haven't seen Alien 3 yet, and
mhm,
hearing like because I know a lot of people hate it as well. Hearing you like it, I'm very excited to check that one out. And the Alien versus Predator films, which I also haven't seen. And I actually wanted to
yeah.
go to a marathon as well soon because the new Alien is coming out.
I just saw
So
the trailer for the first time on Tuesday when I saw Kinds of Kindness.
okay.
Because I know you had mentioned Romulus, and I was like,
Mhm.
oh no, you're like this is just completely by coincidence that I'm going through these movies.
Yeah.
But I just saw the trailer for the first time. It looks interesting. I guess it takes place between Alien and Aliens.
Oh, okay.
Um, I'm loving Kaylee Spaney though. I really think she's great, and I'm very excited that she's like a thing, in our pop culture and society. She's very, very good, very talented. She's got all the right stuff.
Hell yeah. And I'm very like that's the thing that makes me so excited about this new one is the cast, especially her and also the director and it just looks super interesting. And so I'm excited to because I've seen Prometheus. That's the only one after Aliens that I've seen. So I'm excited to
Oh,
watch
interesting.
Resurrection and what's the other one called?
Alien
Covenant?
3, then there's like Alien Covenant.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, those ones I didn't rewatch either. Those ones it's been like I saw them somewhat recently. I
Yeah.
remember going to see Prometheus in theaters when it came out. I went with my aunt. I was staying with my aunt and uncle in Athens, Georgia for a summer.
Mhm.
And I remember I went with my aunt. I was probably I don't even know when that movie came out. What, like 12 years ago, probably 13 years ago. Like I
Think
was
so.
younger. I was probably like 13 or 14 years old maybe, and we went to go see it. And I remember neither of us were aware that it was an Alien movie. Like we didn't know it was part of the franchise. So at
Yeah.
the end of Prometheus, there I won't get into it, but there's like a reveal, and I remember just being like, "What the fuck?" I was like, "This was a fucking Alien movie." I was like, "You've
Yeah.
got to be kidding me!" I was like, "This is crazy as hell." My mind was completely blown.
But
But
have you seen the original Alien before?
I had seen, I don't know if I had seen it, but I was aware of it because of pop culture. But I
Okay,
don't
yeah.
know that I had watched it. I probably had seen Aliens on TV, like on TNT or one of those channels we have here, USA. I probably saw Aliens at some point, at least bits and pieces. But I was very much aware of what Alien was and all that. But I was still young, and I don't know if I saw Alien prior to me, like embarking on my gulp cinephile journey, I guess, for lack of
Yeah.
a better term. But yeah. But besides that, I kind of was just watching some random shit that came out. Really more excited to kind of talk about this week's movie a little bit. Before we do that, you have any news of any kind? Any film news?
I know there was something. Let me check. I know there was something I said that really pissed me off. Oh yeah, there's something. So we talked about the bike riders last episode, which is
Yes.
of course playing in theaters right now. It looks like it won't be playing in theaters much longer because they're pulling it. I'm not sure if they're pulling it, but like it's releasing on digital on July 9th, which is 5 days from now,
Whoa.
which gave the film like only 3 weeks in theaters, which is really frustrating because like seeing a studio lose hope for a film that quickly. And I feel like this is gonna start because like films have been coming out digitally a lot faster nowadays, but not this fast, like not even a month. It's kind of crazy, and I'm sort of afraid to see more studios doing this with films that maybe don't perform well immediately, because some films had like legs later on. Some of the most
Oh yeah.
successful films didn't perform well in the beginning, but then later on, through word of mouth and through more hype building. So this is kind of sad to see because I think the bike riders could have made more, but I guess 3 weeks was enough for them to just be like, okay, let's pull the plug. Digital it is. And it's kind of sad. I hope it doesn't become a trend. I hope they don't do this more often.
Yeah, I'm reading about it now. I mean, after 25 days before it being dumped onto VOD is absolutely insane. I'm assuming some theaters, I mean, I don't know about what like the deal is, but I would have to think some theaters would still be showing it. Like I would assume that it would have to still be showing in some theaters at the like coincidentally.
They probably
Um
will. Some theaters like still have other films. Like my theater was still showing Top Gun Maverick like a year after it came out because
they're still
people.
showing it now. It's been like
I
five
mean,
fucking years.
today is the perfect day to watch it, honestly, over there. But like, it's crazy, and like other films, they just pull them so quickly. And like, if you don't have like the time in the first 2 weeks, I don't like, I hope it doesn't become like a thing where it's just like, oh, you had your week, now it's on digital. Because it will also like more casual fans, they won't even go. They're like, oh, it releases on Disney Plus in 2 weeks. Why even bother going to the theater? Like, it's gonna hurt them much more. So
Yeah.
it's frustrating.
It's just it's fucking annoying and it's because I'm reading this one article now. And I hate this excuse. I really do. Where it's like the bike riders only waited 25 days before being dumped. Now, it surely doesn't help that movie tickets have become very expensive. Most theaters charging over $20 for a single fare. I'm like, I have never paid $20, ever paid $20 for just the seat to go in. Not even for fucking IMAX. IMAX is like 17 bucks. I was like, so what do you mean most theaters are charging $20? If you go to an independent theater, first and foremost, it's going to be like fucking $5. If you go to even AMC, it's like $10. I go every Tuesday to AMC, so it's actually like $6.
Mhm.
So I'm sick of this excuse of everyone. Oh, it's like $25 for. It's like no, it's not even like maybe half of that. Like that's not accurate at all. Um, and again, if you're going to see IMAX, still, I don't even think it's hitting $20, at least by me. So I'm sick of these excuses that people just throw out. Oh, it's so expensive, and I get it, but everything is expensive now, not just movie theaters. Like everything is more expensive.
So many people like
Everything.
they complain about, oh, movie tickets are so expensive, but like you're paying even more for all those streaming services. Like there's so many. If you want all of them, you're paying like over $150 if you want like all of them, like Netflix,
Yeah,
HBO, Disney Plus. So I guess it's more of like, is it worth it for me? I think, and that's an argument. Sure, like if you say like, I don't care about the bike riders, sure, but still, like I think with Austin Butler and Tom Hardy, like I think this film could have made more if they just waited a little bit and hope it doesn't become a trend because they're shooting themselves in the foot by releasing films so fast because a lot of people will be like, why even go to the theater when I can just watch it on Disney Plus in like 2 weeks or
for
Netflix
sure,
or so
for
yeah,
sure.
it's a little annoying.
It's very, very annoying.
Yeah.
Um, any other news, or shall we move on to Fracture?
Let's move on. That's the only thing that I
Yeah,
say.
let's calm ourselves down here. Let's get into this week's movie, which I mentioned at the top of the pod was a first time watch for me. That's the 2007 film Fracture by Gregory Hoblet. You have seen this movie before, correct?
I saw it like 4 months ago for the first time and then rewatched it.
Cool. Okay, so a quick turnaround uh rewatch
Yeah.
um on your end. Okay, sweet. Well, before we get into that, I guess the very basic plot of it of Fracture is Anthony Hopkins is a very, very rich man who finds out that his wife is having an affair. So he uh kills his wife. But when he shoots her in the back of the head, or maybe in the front of the head, like in the face, I don't remember. He also fires like three additional bullets through like the glass window, by the front door. He calls the police and he admits, I killed my wife. And which I texted you. I was like, holy shit, we're only 16 minutes in and there's already a crazy ass twist.
Yeah.
Which obviously, spoiler alert for the listeners, go watch it and come back. Um, Turns out that the detective who comes on the scene to investigate is the man who we saw in the opening scene sleeping with his wife. So he freaks the fuck out, and essentially what happens is Anthony Hopkins goes on and plays this incredibly deceptive and mind melding kind of game with everyone trying to prosecute him. And Ryan Gosling is the attorney who is the district attorney who is assigned to take on this case. Now, at the same time, he is also looking and eyeing a much better job in corporate law at this like super prestigious, like well off firm. So this is kind of like his last case. He thinks it'll be open and closed, like an open shut case. And little does he know that Anthony Hopkins is a twisted fuck. Um, and enter all the drama there. Now, what were your thoughts on this movie 4 months ago, and what was it now after rewatching it?
So when I watched it for the first time, I was like, I liked it a lot. Um, Especially when the twist happened, like the last twist on how he did
Mhm.
it. I was like, oh wow, like this is incredible. But I didn't really think much more of it. And then rewatching it now, I just appreciated so much more like the whole film. I understood like the genius of it a lot more. I thought it was so well made and so many like little details that I didn't see when I first watched it, I saw now. And honestly think like this film benefits from a rewatch knowing what he did and when he did it. Just these small details of how they made it and like these camera techniques they used is incredible. The performances, holy shit. I mean, those were even the first time watching it. So I liked it a lot more this time around.
Fuck yeah. Yeah, it was an interesting first time watch because it's one that I'd always seen the poster of and it's kind of always been like around. But I never I it the way that it looks, I'm like, oh, this looks like just some like very basic run of the mill 2000s like thriller or whatever. Um, but it really is like very smartly made. And I very much really enjoyed watching this movie. I will say that was Ryan Gosling supposed to have like a southern accent because it kept like coming in and out. Like he would like say something where he'd be like, "Well, gosh darn it, like I can't, whatever," and then next he would just be like normal Ryan Gosling. I'm just like, what exactly is he doing with his voice here? That I was unsure of.
That was weird because I watched some of the deleted scenes or like the alternate ending that they had, which was far
Yeah,
worse, by the way. And it didn't have like a that much of a cool twist. But in that, like he just like Ryan Gosling speaks completely different. He has a such a he's just mumbling in that one. Like I couldn't even understand him. Like he didn't talk like that in the like
yeah.
full film. So it was weird. I definitely noticed that as well, especially in that deleted
I'm gonna
ending.
have. I still gotta watch the deleted alternate ending scene. Um,
Not very
which
good.
now that you mentioned it, I'm curious to know what exactly is it? Is it a
So
different twist? Is it a lack of a twist? Or
yeah, so I think they probably kept it in and then showed it to a test audience, which also had, I'm assuming lawyers in there. I'm sure they had some lawyer consultants who said like, that's dumb. Like he wouldn't do that. Pretty much he breaks into Anthony Hopkins' house instead of getting invited,
yeah,
just looks around, finds the gun, gets it out, and Anthony Hopkins discovers like that he's walking around through the cameras. And then they talk, and then pretty much it's revealed that he he changed the gun, but he didn't change it back. And so the original bullets, like he had to put new bullets into the gun. And in those new bullets he had his fingerprints on, the gun that he gave back the cop, I guess. And so he shot himself in the head.
Anthony Hopkins.
No, no, no. So the cop who killed himself,
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
they're like, oh yeah, the bullet is in his brain. So if you get it out, like there's the fingerprints on it,
Mm,
which is a lot lamer than the real ending. I think it's a lot better and a lot smarter because in this one, like the alternate ending, a lawyer wouldn't break into the house because it would just open up so many more issues. And I don't
yeah,
know, like I'm
yeah.
not better, I don't have a lot of knowledge. I guess you're a better person to talk about this because you went to law school. So I think it's just a lot more stupid for a lawyer to break into the house instead of getting invited.
Yeah, getting invited is way better because you can actually use that. If you broke in, you couldn't really use any of that that
Yeah.
evidence you found. But
Yeah.
um, wow, that sounds just awful. I'm going to track that down. I'm assuming it's just on YouTube, the alternate ending.
I watched it on, I have the Blu-ray, so it was on there,
Oh,
but
that's right. You have the Blu-ray. Yeah,
you can find it on YouTube as well.
I'm sure it has to be.
Mm.
Um, well, beyond that, I think that this it does something that's interesting. Well, not really that interesting. It does something that's pretty usual, and it pits Anthony Hopkins as like a completely like mentally like twisted but genius human being. Like it's very much like an extension of Hannibal Lecter, um, in that kind of way. And I feel like he was the perfect casting choice for this movie. This movie was low key very stacked. The cast. I was not
Same.
expecting that.
Yeah, Rosamund Pike, like I forgot that she was in it, even though I saw it very
Yeah.
recently. She pops up, I'm like, oh yeah, shit, she's in it. You have, of course, Ryan Gosling, Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah, you have that homie Cliff Curtis with the big nose.
Yep. Yeah, they had.
Tons of people in this movie. It was unbelievably cast. And this director, Gregory Hoblet, I wasn't familiar with, and I'll go ahead and I guess kind of hint that one of his other movies I did pick for my four, unknowingly that he also directed it until I rewatched it yesterday and I was like, oh, that's the same fucking dude who did Fracture. Um, but we'll get into that
Yeah.
later. Did you um did you happen to have a favorite kind of moment in Fracture on this rewatch that you're like, oh, this holds up really well on a second viewing?
Yeah, so I took a couple notes, but like you said, like Anthony Hopkins, like his performance is insane in this because he plays this genius who finds the flaws. Like he works at this plane company and he finds like these flaws in the plane
Yeah.
for them to make them. And just his character, the way he talked to Ryan Gosling, and I like that a lot. So when in the beginning he pretends to be very stupid, so he's like,
Mm,
I'm gonna represent myself, and then pretending like he doesn't know those words for the things he wants to do, and he's like, oh yeah,
yeah.
people underestimate him, like, oh, this is gonna be a disaster, and then he lets his true self like out, and
Yep.
this scene in the beginning where he talks to Ryan Gosling in a cell, and he's like, Willie, does it annoy you that I call you Willie? And Ryan Gosling is like, I don't fucking care. What the fuck? And then throughout the film, he does it again, and you can see how it slowly gets through Ryan Gosling. So this
Hmm.
one was like, yeah, Willie, and you can see in Ryan Gosling like it just annoys him so much. So I like that a lot. Um, and there's one very funny scene where Ryan Gosling like he spills a coffee on the new suit he got, and he
Hmm.
gives this like super funny look pretty much into the camera, which made me laugh very hard. Yeah, so those, and there's one Easter egg I found while watching
Mm.
it. The cinematographer for this was Kramer Morgenthau, which I'm a big fan
Okay.
of. He also did the new Creed film. And in the beginning, Ryan Gosling's character, he has like a case folder in the background, and it says The People versus Morgenthau, which I was just
Oh,
found funny
interesting.
because, like they got names of cast members and like the DP on there. So that's just a fun Easter egg I found. But yeah, I think those are my favorite scenes. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously like the reveal at the end is just great. Like the whole scene is like just is so like immersive. that it's like hard to like look away as the whole reveal is like slowly happening at his house. Um, but besides that, I think it was like you said, it was kind of like little moments in like their interactions, either with one another or alone. Um, and I also really love that whatever that thing is that Anthony Hopkins has, I really want one where you put the little marble in and it kind of like a roller coaster spins around. I really kind of want one of those. I wonder what those are even called.
I don't know, but like usually I had a doctor when I was a kid and he had that in his like waiting room at the doctor's office, but I'm
Really?
not sure what it's called. Yeah, but it was fun just to put the marbles on there and just keeps going.
Oh
Um,
yeah, that I've never seen something like that. It was
really
pretty
fun.
fucking dope.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was crazy.
Now this movie, because I'm looking at it and I'm curious to know if you have any info on this, but it says country of origin for this film, United States and Germany. Was this like made like in part by a German company?
Good question. I'm actually not sure because it's the first time I'm hearing of this. I don't think they shot anything here, but
I don't
yeah,
think so either, but it is considered a American German legal drama film. I'm wondering if this Gregory Hoblet fellow is perhaps German. Um, but yeah, I literally just noticed that and thought you might have some info in regards to that.
he's from Texas, the director. So, good question. I'm gonna do some research on that, and maybe in the next step, like next episode, we can talk about it. But yeah,
Yeah. Well, anyway, it's also very important to note that for his performance, Ryan Gosling did receive two nominations for a Teen Choice Award for his performance in Fracture. Um, so shout out to Ryan Gosling and shout out to the Teen Choice Awards for recognizing true
yeah,
talent on them. The Teen Choice Awards.
are they from the
Um,
or
it's like I think it's on like MTV or one of
okay?
those, like VH1, like one of those kind of
Mm,
channels where it's like everyone in the crowd, especially like in the 2000s. It was just very it was like Christina Aguilera was always pulling up to that shit. Like very 2000s.
okay.
Um yeah, and your award would be a giant surfboard and it said like Teen Choice Awards on it.
Oh yes, I always
Um
thought that was like a Nickelodeon thing because it
no, no, that's
wasn't it orange, the surfboard.
the surfboard was orange, but it was not Nickelodeon though.
Okay, so I always thought that.
Um,
I'm glad teens
Nickelodeon,
appreciate his
the
performance on
teens
this.
appreciated. He was the what was the exact term? The choice movie actor. So shout out to him. I don't know if he actually won, but he did get the two nominations. Um, for that. Um, okay, Fracture. What else about Fracture? I don't really know what else to say about this movie. Um, because I don't really want to go plot by plot because I do think everyone should go see it if you're still listening in on this. We've kind of
Mhm.
spoiled a few things there without fully getting into the full on twist of it all.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, you have any other kind of thoughts on Fracture?
Yeah, because the first twist that one you mentioned, it happens in the beginning when he shoots
Yeah,
his wife. So it's part of the story. So it's not really spoiled. We're not going to talk about like the ending. But there's one thing about the ending that I really liked. So because Anthony Hopkins' character throughout, he always has like something in the back of his head where he's like, I know how to get out of there because he has so much knowledge
hmm,
and like finds the flaw pretty much in the US legal system, and has so much knowledge to get out. And so he always has this smirk on his face, whatever he does. Like even when he pretends like play stupid, there's like this little smirk. He's like, yeah, I don't know the word. Smiles like,
yeah,
oh yeah, what
yeah.
about when the cop who
Fucking
pulls
my wife.
fucks my wife and they're like, order, order. And then in the end, when Ryan Gosling pulls up to his house and then drops the bomb pretty much on what mistake he made, his demeanor just changes like that. He's
Yeah,
like, get the fuck out of my house.
yeah.
That's something that I just really like. That's like these little small moments with both Anthony Hopkins' character and Ryan Gosling's character and them interacting just makes this film, it elevates it so much more from being a
Oh yeah.
base 2000s thriller.
Yeah. And at the same time, it really is a lot like a lot of other like 90s 2000s sort of thrillers, especially these legal dramas
Yep.
or legal thrillers. But there is still something where, at least for me, like those movies, no matter how many times I see them, no matter how much it's like the other, I still fuck with all of them. Like I still like it. It's always just entertaining at the very least.
Yeah.
um but yeah, it's funny because it so much is a run of the mill film, but it does a lot of things that does make it stand out from being just a run of the mill legal thriller film at the
Yeah.
same time. So it kind
Especially,
of it checks both boxes in a way for me.
absolutely. And especially like the twist at the end, I just loved so much. And
Oh
like I
yeah.
said, when we watch it, it's even more insane knowing how he did it and what mistake he made. It's just a lot more fun to see it unfold, knowing everything, which you don't
Yeah.
have at the first time. So yeah.
Yeah. 100%. Well, on a scale of 1 to 10 little marbles, um how much is this Ryan Gosling character of Willie literally you?
So I like his drive because in the beginning he's just like he's painted as this guy who every time a case is going to like not his way, he just drops it. So he has a 97 conviction rate because he takes those cases.
Yeah.
So they paint him as this guy who like he doesn't pull through when it gets tough pretty much. And so now he gets a case with someone who wants to get under his skin, like who manipulates him, who has fun doing it. He just switches. He's like, "Oh, you want to fuck with me? I'm gonna fuck with
Mhm.
you." Doesn't let go, ruins his career, pretty much his life, his the Rosamund Pike's character, like their relationship. He ruins a lot of relationships through that by trying to get this, and I like that he's just so focused on solving this case.
Mhm.
So I can admire his drive, and he's funny. He has a lot of funny moments, and he's a little clumsy, which I also like. So maybe like 6.5, 7, something like that. He's likable. So
Yeah, he's very likable. I think yeah, I think I would maybe go like a 6 or something. He's very dedicated to his work. He's very passionate, but at the same time he does kind of get a little distracted from the
yeah,
goal by essentially just being in a way kind of wine and dined by Rosamund Pike, which I feel like would happen to me as well. So, you know, and I'll give him a 7 actually as well, and I'd
yeah,
say I'm like that.
yeah.
Well, shall we go ahead and move on and go to our four picks for Fracture for old Willie?
Yeah, let's get it over with because we both struggled a little bit with our
Yeah,
list. Maybe want
it was a
to.
tough one, and I still don't know that I'm very happy with it, but nonetheless, we are here. Do you want to go ahead and kick it off?
I can kick it off. So, like I said, I struggled a lot because watching this one, I was like, oh yeah, this is like, I just noticed I haven't seen as many courtroom dramas as I thought I did. So I went through all my letterbox. I'm like, there aren't that many, and a lot of them are already talked about in the past because there's been films like All Good Things that are sort of similar. So it was like, oh, I'm kind of running out of films like that. So I went with a different direction, and I had 4 TV shows, which I've never even had one TV show.
Interesting.
But then I found one film. I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna have 4 TV shows, so I have one film that I'm gonna talk about first, and then get into the TV shows.
Okay.
Um, the fourth TV show I wanted to have is Better Call Saul, of course, because it's a courtroom drama with someone who uses the legal system to his advantage to pull shit that he wants and pull yeah, very fucked up pranks on people.
Yeah.
But the film I picked was Prisoners, Denis Villeneuve's Prisoners, um, which is one of my favorite films. And I liked it because you have this cop who is very dedicated in solving this case in his way. And you have this dad who is also very dedicated solving this case and going about it another way, a very brutal way, a very manipulative way. And it reminded me because you have this cop who's like, I know a guy in the forensics office. He can fake this to get this man arrested because this man has to go behind jail. And you have Ryan
Yeah,
Gosling like, oh, I could do this, but I'm gonna do this by the books. So that dynamic you have in Prisoners as well, which is why I chose Prisoners as my one film this week.
that's a great pick. It's one of my. I think that is my favorite Villeneuve film. Um,
Incredible
yeah,
and
has
great
been for like
performances.
11 years. Amazing
Yeah,
performances.
yeah.
Um,
First pick.
well, great pick. Yeah, my first pick is a movie that immediately came to mind when I was watching this, that I hadn't seen in probably 10 plus years. And come to find out at the end of it, it was directed by old Greg Hoblet, and that's Primal Fear from 1996. Edward Norton, Richard Gere, another stacked fucking cast. Laura Linney, Maura Tierney, fucking cast just went insane. Um, but this movie is really good. At the time when I first saw it, I actually like had it listed among like my favorite movies like ever.
Damn.
Um, which it's probably not even in the top like 250 now at this point, but at the time like it just blew my mind the ending. Um, and have you seen this movie, Primal Fear?
I know of it, but I've never actually seen
Okay.
it. I've heard a lot about
The
it.
the idea then, this isn't like a spoiler, but the basic idea is that Richard Gere is a defense attorney who takes on this case of this choir boy or altar boy or whatever, both, I guess, who was caught fleeing the scene of like the archbishop being like murdered, and he's being tried in the murder case. And Richard Gere is like this hotshot attorney who takes it pro bono for free just because he wants the notoriety. He likes being famous, and all signs point to Edward Norton, this young kid, which it's in his film. This is his debut. This is the first film that he's ever acted in.
Oh, yeah.
And all signs kind of point to him that he's the one who did it. And again, it's kind of a battle of wits where you get the sense that there's a game being played, but you don't quite know to the extent until the end when it's revealed, which the end reveal is really quite insane. I'm not going to say anything further. Um, on rewatch, it still holds up the whole previous film, but the twist itself actually doesn't hold up on rewatch because it seems so out of character that like this like slip or whatever, for lack of a better word, would have happened from this character, like the character who
Mhm.
reveals it. I'm like, this seems kind of out of their character for them to have like fumbled on that. But nonetheless, very it makes sense why this dude went on to make Fracture. Like it makes total sense. Like they're very much in line with one another stylistically, vibe wise, um, story wise. So I highly recommend checking out Primal Fear. I think it's a must watch, and I think on the very first ever viewing, it's quite like a shock and is a ton of fun. But yeah, Primal Fear, 1996.
Oh yeah, I gotta check that one out because it's been on my watch list for a long time, and I didn't even know that he directed both. But now you saying it, like it very much sounds like something he would do. He seems like a guy to do these courtroom things with these characters who then have like a big twist, I guess.
100%. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
it's. I could already tell like if I never saw any of the advertising for Fracture, I would have to assume the entire thing is the director who brought you Primal Fear.
yeah,
Like they all were probably saying that because it's kind of the same ish sort of movie.
yeah. So if you like that one, you're gonna like this one sort of thing.
Exactly. If you
Yeah,
really like Fracture, you'll love Primal Fear.
hell yeah. I love Fracture, so I'm excited to watch that one.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really good.
Awesome. Okay, so like I said, I have three TV shows left. And for my first one, I picked one that goes into why someone got free, a murderer, because of the failure of the US legal system and pretty much attorneys. And that is American Crime Story, The People versus O.J. Simpson, which, of course, the real life case of O.J. Simpson, infamous. But yeah, this is a very cool. Have you ever seen any of those American Crime Story?
Mm-mm.
So
No, I
pretty much
watched American Horror Story a bit, but not the crime story.
okay, but you know what it's like. The
Yeah.
thing
Yeah. Yeah.
they reenact these
Mm-hmm.
things with real actors. Pretty much go over the story, And this also had like a stacked cast. Like you have Sarah Paulson is in it. You have John Travolta. You have David Schwimmer.
Hmm.
Like a lot of very talented people. And of course, David Schwimmer playing what's his name? The Kardashian, like their dad.
Rob Kardashian.
Kardashian, who's the one who got OJ free. He was his attorney. Um, it's a very cool approach. Like it was the first time I've seen one of those American crime stories. I didn't even know what it was really about. I just knew about the real life case of O.J. Simpson, being a
Hmm.
football fan, knowing that he played for our team. Um, just very much interested me and seeing this story unfold because I wasn't alive back then. It's just so frustrating to see someone who was so obvious. Like it was just so obvious, and there were a lot of mistakes, like the infamous glove thing. Just
Yep.
like really, like it's very frustrating. And yeah, seeing how someone got free because the legal system isn't um, the perfect way, isn't how it should be. So
Yeah.
that's my second pick. But you know about this case. What do you think about it?
I love O.J. Simpson. I think he was innocent. Rest in peace. No, he actually spent quite a fair amount of time down here in like St. Petersburg because his son lives down here.
Yeah,
So I always said if I ever saw him out, because I had some friends who were like, "Yo, we just saw him like at the bar like recently."
it was always
I was
in
like,
bars. Yeah,
if I ever saw him, I'm not gonna lie to you. I would have gone over and I would have dapped him up. Like I can't even lie to you. I would have said, and I was joking earlier. I don't actually love him,
yeah,
but OJ would have been there, it would have been hard for me to not go up and at least say something to him. Like
mm,
because I do actually like him a lot as an actor, and he was a great football player. But I actually really liked him as an actor a lot. I would have loved to have been like, "Yo, I love Naked Gun, man. Capricorn One.
yeah.
Like you're kind of the shit on screen." I for sure would adapt up OJ for sure. He's my favorite killer. So yeah, rest in peace to OJ.
The shit on screen, a piece of shit off screen. I feel like I wouldn't have dapped them up,
Yeah,
but definitely would have made some kind of remark like, "Hey, good job killing your wife, dumbass," or something like that.
yeah,
Not
yeah,
a fan of him, but like he always did those videos on Twitter, like "Hello Twitter world," talking about his fantasy football team. I know we sent those to each other, which was like a
yeah.
fun.
And in the background, there's the woman like, "Hey, help."
Yeah, he was quite the character. Rest in hell, OJ. I don't like you. I think you did it, but yeah, that's another story. But
Yeah. Anyway, Dino might not like you, but I love you, OJ. Thank you for all your hard work.
listening from hell
Um,
to our podcast.
yeah. Um, okay, my next pick is a movie that I started last night and I fell asleep with like half an hour left, but I'm still going to include it on, and I didn't have time to finish it this morning. I slept in a little bit longer because I deserve it. I put on a movie that is now on. Funny you've been talking about shows because it is now a show on Netflix starring Jake Gyllenhaal, which I've not seen, but I probably will. And I picked Presume Innocent, starring Harrison Ford by Alan Pakula, or Pakula or Pakula, not quite sure how that's pronounced, from 1990. Harrison Ford is a prosecutor, Rusty Sabich, great name, who is like who has an affair with his coworker who was found murdered. Um, and it's interesting because they don't like show the whole affair and they build up and there's this big dramatic murder. Like it literally like almost opens up like with the murder, and then there are some flashbacks that show like the affair. It's just Pakula is, I mean, a great fucking director. Like, of course he's not going to tell it in the way that you would expect it to. Not that it's so like, oh my god, this is so inventive, but still, it's not just like, okay, let's build up half an hour of this affair, hot, steamy, fatal attraction type shit, and then kill her off. It's like it opens right up, like it gets right into it, and then adds a lot of context throughout. But awesome movie. I ran it right after I rewatched Primal Fear last night, so I was really. I think that's why it was hard for me to get through. I was tired.
Yeah.
Um, but really, really interesting movie. Again, I can't quite divulge fully because one, I haven't even gotten there to the end. Um, but the way that it moves again is very much in line with this, where there is clearly some kind of game being played by somebody, and I think that's kind of the theme that I have in this, and that there is a game that someone is playing, and they are maybe not the whole time, but at least for the majority of it, at least one or two steps ahead of everybody else. And this is definitely one of those. Now, I don't know who it is. It could be Harrison Ford. It could not, because he's the one who's accused. I don't know if I mentioned that. He's the one who's now being accused of um, killing her because he had an affair. They found his fucking jizz in her because they were fucking. They found his fingerprint on like a glass, and he's in charge of the investigation as well. And he doesn't want the affair to be made known, even though his wife already knows about it. So he's like, don't check the phone records, don't worry about fingerprinting me. So then there becomes all this evidence like, yo, are you kind of like not doing your job here and kind of just protecting yourself? So it's really interesting. And like I said, it is now a Netflix show. It is a series now with Jake Gyllenhaal, which I guess Jake Gyllenhaal is now just made a career. I love the guy, but has now just made a career out of making remakes of stuff. We got this Presumed Innocent. We got The Guilty, where
Yeah.
he plays the phone operator. We got
Roadhouse.
Roadhouse.
Yeah.
Uh, we got tons of stuff that he's doing a lot of remakes. I don't know how to feel about it, but shout out to Jakey G.
I love him. He's one of my favorite actors, and it's kind of like interesting to see where his career has gone because like he's doing a lot more shows and remakes than before. So I'm still always excited. I didn't even know that this was a Netflix show that he was in. I saw something recently. Like, didn't he do also a Apple TV Plus show fairly recently that came out?
Oh, maybe it is Apple TV Plus. I thought it was Netflix.
Maybe it's that one because like I saw just like last week I saw a poster of something on
You're
my
right. You're right. You're right. I'm sorry. It is
okay.
Apple TV. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's Apple
Okay.
TV.
So that confused me. I was like, oh, is he doing like two shows for both streaming
No, yeah,
services? But
my
okay.
bad. My bad.
Okay.
And I guess to be fair, like Presumed Innocent is like a novel first and foremost.
Mhm.
Um, so you can call it a remake of this, but it's also just based on the material. But
Yeah,
yeah, either way, still kind of a remake of sorts.
another iteration. I'm excited to check out
Yeah.
this film. Never heard of it, and then maybe go into the TV show to see what kind of different approach they use, if any, and how it's
Yeah.
told. That's a
Yeah.
great pick though, with like the husband killing the wife because of an affair. That's a great theme.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep. What's your
okay,
third?
so for my third one, so like I said, like I previously mentioned, I'm currently doing a little marathon. I'm reading all the Daredevil comics, starting from like I started in 1998, I think. So pretty much catching up and rereading a lot of the Daredevil comics of the past 25 or so years. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with Daredevil, but there's something very interesting to me about someone who at night he's this dressed as this devil and beating up criminals, and then during the day he's an attorney, pretty much prosecuting them. There's something very
Mm-hmm.
fascinating about that, and there was one line in Fracture where someone says like, "Oh, he has a right to manipulate the system as much as anyone else," and that reminded me because like reading the Daredevil comics, there's one line as well where they talk about. I'm not sure if this is like a common way of phrasing it, but this concept of like the legal system is its own reality with its own rules, and lawyers are pretty much there, and they manipulate it and pull it towards their goal. So it's this in this
Mm-hmm.
fluid state pretty much, and that's something they talk about in one of the Daredevil comics I read. So that's sort of why it made me think of that. And yeah, Daredevil, the TV show, it was on Netflix. Now it's on Disney Plus. 3 seasons, and there's a like a new show coming out, Daredevil Born Again, on Disney Plus, and it's just a very cool show. I think that would be like a superhero thing that you would like a lot because it's very street focused. It's not this alien threat, giants, whatever. It's just like this guy trying to solve these cases as a lawyer, and then once the law doesn't go his way, he dresses up as a devil and goes out by night, trying to get the information, trying to get evidence, and beating up criminals. So yeah, it's a
Mm-hmm.
very very cool show. So that was my pick.
Yeah, fuck yeah. I remember watching it when it first came out. I don't know that I were there multiple seasons you said or just the one?
Three
Three,
seasons.
right? Yeah, I think I
Yeah.
saw the first season.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and check it out. Um, okay, my third one. Let me know if I've mentioned this one on the pod. And we might have straight up done a whole episode on this. You know how bad my memory is. We might in the early days we might have done a whole episode. If there is, I'll change it. Let me
Mhm.
know. For my third pick, and I might have picked this for another movie too. I don't know. But my third pick is the 1981 film Body Heat. Have we done an episode on this or
We
talked
haven't
about it? Have
done.
you seen it?
I haven't, but I think it was
Okay.
on your list in the early days for films to watch.
Okay.
We might have
But we
talked
didn't.
like we didn't do a full episode on this.
Okay. Okay. Good. Body Heat 1981 is one of my all-time favorites. I have quoted many times as saying it is, I think, maybe the best Florida film. Um, it's uh, it's kind of a modern, and by modern I mean modern for 1981, a modern sort of reinterpretation of Double Indemnity, the Billy Wilder noir. Um, and I really cannot get too much into this, but the basic general plot line of Body Heat is that this guy who's played by William Hurt, um, like he's a lawyer in this small town in like southeastern Florida, um, who he begins an affair with this woman that he meets, played by Kathleen Turner, and they hatch a plan. They devise a plan to murder her husband, so that way they can be together. He's a very wealthy, magnate or whatever from the area, and they devise a plan to murder him, and the rest of the film goes from there. Now, this has one of the all-time great uh, twists, one of the great sort of reveals ever. It really does not get much better than this in terms of movies like this, and it's hard. It's hard to not see the influence of Body Heat in all of these movies as well when you go watch it.
Mhm.
Um, it's so good. It's so sweaty. It's one of my all-time favorite movies. All shot in location in South Florida, like Miami area, outside Miami. And yeah, William Hurt is fucking amazing in this. There's a young Ted Danson, dark haired Ted Danson before he went full shock white. Um, but yeah, I'm not going to get too much into it further because the twist is so good and the way that the last like hour plays out is incredible. So I'll just kind of leave it at that and say Body Heat 1981. I feel like a lot of people maybe have seen it, but if you haven't, you got to get to it.
Yeah, it's been on my watch list for a while. I need to check that one out. And I think you mentioned it once when we talked about Florida films. We really got to do like a full episode just talking about different Florida films because I want to talk about Wild Things, which is one of my
Yeah,
favorite Florida films.
yeah,
But this one I definitely have to check out soon.
yeah. Body Heat's fucking amazing. So is Wild Things. Wild Things is great too.
Let's do a Florida episode one day and then just talk about all the best Florida films,
Yeah,
which I
I'm
think
down.
a lot of them we have talked about already. But
I'm sure we
okay.
have.
So for my fourth and last pick, I chose the best lawyer TV show ever made because Fracture had a lot of comedic bits here and there. So I was like, oh, let's do a comedy. And you're smiling. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think I know what you're gonna say. Let's hear it.
You probably don't, but it's Harvey Birdman.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say Columbo. But yeah, I have no idea what Harvey Birdman is.
Well, you're gonna find out because this is one of Hanna-Barbera characters. It's a very funny cartoon lawyer show about this.
What's it called again?
It's called Harvey Birdman. It's pretty much this eagle, I think, that is a lawyer, and it's super funny. It's honestly like
Oh, yeah.
it's
Yeah.
hilarious. It was on Adult Swim, I think, back then, and super funny. And every episode, like other Hanna-Barbera characters could have showed up. I think there's one where the Flintstones sue someone, or like the Scooby-Doo gang like sue someone. It's just very funny to see them interact. And like I said, a very funny show. He's super hilarious. There's a lot of funny bits, a lot of funny original characters. There's the Lizard Man, which are like my favorite character, I guess. Um, yeah, very funny show. Perfect for a Sunday morning. I think each episode is like 10 minutes or something. So I highly recommend this one. I think this is one that you could definitely enjoy and have good laughs over on a Sunday morning. And I plan on buying the box set pretty soon and then maybe each Sunday watch one episode just to get the nostalgic feeling back of having something to look forward to, waking up early on Sunday, getting your cereal ready, your parents are still asleep, and you're just watching great cartoons. So this is one. And yeah, kind of a joke answer, but honestly, a very funny lawyer show.
I gotta watch it because I do know that it was on that like Space Ghost show. He was on that Space Ghost show from like the 90s. Space Ghost was like a Hanna-Barbera, like I
Yeah,
don't know if he
yeah,
was like a superhero, uh,
yeah.
or
Or like an
what.
alien. Yeah.
Um, yeah, but then he had that show, like the Space Ghost show or something. It was like it was supposed to be like a talk show, like a late night talk show kind of thing. And I think the Birdman, or what's his name? What,
Harvey,
Har-
Harvey Birdman.
Harvey? Yeah,
Yeah.
I think he was like a recurring character, like on that.
It
But
could
this
be like,
show I've never seen. I will
yeah.
definitely watch this shit though. It looks fucking sick.
I think it's right up your alley. And I'm not sure, like maybe he like the character came from that show and then he got his own spin-off show. I'm
I
not
think
sure
it
what.
is a spin-off.
Okay. But yeah,
Um,
super fun.
this looks very funny. It looks all low key, kind of adult too, like in a way, a little
A lot
bit.
of adult jokes and just like
Yeah.
very
Okay.
funny humor. It's one that I cannot recommend enough. And like I said, there's always like you can always put on an episode on like a Sunday or whatever and just watch it and just have a laugh. The jokes are super
Hmm.
funny. Like I said, Lizardman. Once you get Lizardman, he shows up multiple times during the show. Once you get like to him, think of me. He's super funny.
Okay. I will. I will. I'm gonna give it a spin. This looks right up my alley, as you said. Okay, my fourth and final pick from the old Alfred Hitchcock, the legend, the goat. Again, maybe I talked about this. I don't fucking know. I don't really remember anything. But my fourth pick is going to be his 1954 film, Dial M for Murder. Um, have you seen this movie? Have
We
I talked
haven't
about it?
we haven't
Okay.
we talked about recently because of another Ryan Gosling film that we thought was a remake of Dial M
Oh,
for
that's right.
Murder.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
Murder by Numbers,
which
I think is
isn't a
what it's
remake,
called.
as I found out.
I don't I don't think so.
Yeah,
Um, but there is a remake, and I think it's just called Murder or something. It has Michael Douglas, but there is a remake of this
there is
out
a
there. I
remake.
know
Yeah,
that for a fact. Um, but this movie's fucking awesome for a long time too. When I first saw it, and I still feel this way every time I rewatch it. I'm like, this is a very underrated. Like, I feel like it does get its chops and it has its respect, but like, it doesn't it doesn't it's not held up there with like the vertigos, the rear windows, the can I just say there's so much sportsmanship in tennis. This guy goes down, fucks up his knee, and the opponent literally comes over across the net and helps him up. Which this does tie in, by the way. This isn't just me kind of partially watching Wimbledon while recording a pod.
uh,
But Ray Milland in Dial M for Murder is an ex tennis pro in this film.
there you
So
go.
really, I'm just I'm doing this just for the characterization of it. But he's an ex tennis pro, and he desperately wants to kill his wife. His wife, played by Grace Kelly,
Mhm.
um, and he discovers that she's having an affair with this man. He wants to murder her, and he hatches this entire plan to to have her murdered. And it's interesting because it's sort of like a reverse of Fracture, where Fracture you see it all from the outset, and then you try to get the details as it goes on. But in Dial M, you are watching all the details and all the specifics of the entire thing play out, and then at the end you see where he succeeded, where he fucked up, where the issues were, and how he now has to navigate through that. So it's just
Mhm.
an interesting kind of flipped sort of perspective on it.
Yeah.
But again, I really do think that this should be up there and talked about with maybe not Rear Window, because that's like Rear Window, Psycho. That's kind of like the S tier. Like, this can never be touched. Like, this is
Mhm.
just the best of the best. But it should be regarded as like the A tier, like right underneath like like this should be. I like it more than the Birds. A lot of people put the Birds like way up there. It should be in line with like even like Vertigo and shit. Like to catch a thief, like it should be up there with these. Maybe not To Catch a Thief. That's maybe down there a little bit more. But you know what I mean. It's a very underrated, I think, in a weird way. Although a lot of people know it and love it, I don't ever really feel that it gets the respect that it should. Because I really do think it's so solid and is directed just so great. And it's one of those where it's like sometimes you watch a movie, you're like, obviously this is directed like perfectly, but
Mhm.
sometimes it does drag and sometimes whatever. Like North by Northwest is one to me that always does kind of drag. Like there comes a section where I'm just like, I'm not as in this anymore.
Mhm.
And this movie never has a moment like that for me personally. Like never once. Like it is just going, 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 going.
Bit by
Um,
bit, perfect, yeah.
really, really. Have you seen Dial M? Did I already ask you this?
I still haven't. I
Okay.
want to, but it's definitely like I noticed that as well. It's not as talked about as much as like Vertigo and all these other ones. Although I was like here, like every time I hear something, people are like, "Oh, this is incredible," but then it's just not talked about it enough, I guess. People
Yeah.
always go to these other films first, which makes sense. They're incredible, but I'm very much looking forward to seeing this one. I need to get like a Hitchcock box set and just go through like all of his best ones because there's still a lot of them I haven't seen.
Oh yeah. You got to get on that shit. There's
Yeah,
some obviously some gems out there to indulge in.
yeah.
Um,
North by Northwest as well.
yeah, North by North, it is good, but it's just there are points where I'm like, it's not really
Yeah,
hitting for me here. Well, anyway, should we wrap this up and give out our top four again for um anyone who's maybe trying to write these down and watch them?
absolutely. You want to go first?
Yeah, cool. My picks for this week were Dial M for Murder, 1954, Body Heat from 81, Presumed Innocent from 1990, and Primal Fear from 96.
Oh yeah, great list. And my lazy list consists of Prisoners, The People versus O.J. Simpson, Daredevil, and Harvey Birdman.
Fuck yeah. Harvey Birdman's a great pick, underrated pick.
Dude, honestly, I had to bring it up somehow. I'm glad it came through because I couldn't find other films. So,
Hell yeah. Well, that's another great episode of the show. Next week we're back. We only have 8 more Ryan Gosling films to get through.
oh yeah,
Um, I'm sorry, 9, 9, because I forget on this list I am missing one very early Gosling performance. We have 9 left, which is kind of crazy. We are now down to 2006. Next week we will be watching Half Nelson, an incredible, incredible film that I'm very much looking forward to rewatching again. I made a comment to you when I was watching Fracture that Gosling still looked strung out in Fracture from when he was acting in Half Nelson.
yeah.
Um, but I'm very excited to get into it. Hope all the listeners give it a watch or a rewatch for next week's ep because it's a good one, man. It's a really great film. I'm very very excited to rewatch it, and I know this will be a first time watch for you, correct?
I watched it before a long
Oh,
time
you have?
ago.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay, got you.
I'm also very much looking forward to rewatching it because I don't remember a lot of it. I remember it was very heavy. So,
It's heavy.
yep, that's
Oh,
one
it's
thing.
heavy. All
I
right.
gotta prepare myself mentally for that. But I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited as well. So, folks, thanks for listening as always. We will be back next week with Half Nelson. And yeah, see you guys later. Thanks for listening.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.